Hey, welcome to Creative Block. We're your hosts, V.
And Sean, aka Lord Spew. Sorry, I had to go get my coffee. I ran to the door and then got back before the podcast started. We talk shop with other creatives in animation and comics about things like finding your artistic path or the process of making art while we draw together.
We asked people on our social medias if they had specific topics they wanted us to discuss, as well as some drawing prompts. We have a lot of drawing prompts and a lot of questions today. If you haven't yet, check out our Patreon and subscribe to our channel.
Today, we have with us the very talented Ryan Gillis, the creator and inventor of Stugo.
Hello.
There he is.
I think I clipped already.
It's okay. Clip that.
Yeah.
Clip that.
Clip that.
Clip that. Put that on. Do a media blast on that.
Move my microphone further away from my mouth. Hi, thank you for having me.
We're so happy to be talking to you right now.
Yeah, it's so fun. Who came up with the Stugo, the voice that goes Stugo at the beginning of the show?
That's Brad Breek, one of a kind. We were always, it was always kind of inspired by 60s adventure media. And I was watching all those old trailers, and all they do for those things is they repeat the name of the thing over and over and over again.
Yeah.
It would be like Spider.
Did you forget the name of it?
Yeah, like this month, Spider. And I got really obsessed with that. And so it always had to be screamed. I knew it. But no, that was Brad Breek, the composer of the show. His insane vibrato.
Well, kids love screaming. I feel like that's true. They like an excuse to scream.
We all have a reason.
We all have a reason. I think I'm going to start peppering in some questions right away because some of them are like straight to the point and exactly where we want to take this interview. So on Twitter, Kahenya Kangjili asked, I'm like, what was development like for Stugo?
Development was, I think I had a pretty typical development experience. I mean, it was very, very long. And, but I had a great exec. I'm not just being political. Elizabeth Taylor. I realized there's so many things you can't control in development. And you see so many ideas that were great go by the wayside. And it's just like, you don't know. You got a little bit of survivor's guilt. You're like, why me? Like I saw so many ideas as good as, if not better than this one. But you make it through this gauntlet of just shifting climates, shifting goals, and then it really just feels like you threw a dart through a bunch of swinging axes, and for some reason your dart made it all the way through, and you're like, oh wow.
Yeah, or like a baby turtle's hatching on the beach, and all the gulls are going down.
Even better. I love that.
How much can you tell us specifically about the process of developing at Disney? Because I know Disney's a little bit different from other places. For example, like my experience developing with Warner Brothers is very much, I'm talking to my exec and we're working on an idea, but all I know are just my ideas. When you develop at Disney, are you aware of the other ideas that are being developed at the same time?
Yeah. I mean, so this was I think it started like 6 or 7 years ago.
Whoa, and, that's a long development.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Huh.
And then just like 2 years of production. So, but yeah, it was like, and in the meanwhile, they were taking me off my project and having me do like certain episodes of other shows. Like I worked on The Wonderful World of Mickey Mouse with Paul Rudish and those guys.
Oh, nice.
And that was all, again, just part of the development process where they thought like, actually, we think that like, the show won't do great right now, you know what I mean? So like there was a lot of like taking the piece on and off the board, which I didn't understand at the time. But and I forgot the question. Yeah. We were all together. I got really lucky. I got an overall. So I had just gone off a show called Pickle and Peanut, and I got hired to direct a pilot, and then they essentially hired me to develop this idea, and more multiple ideas, which is incredibly lucky. And then so I got to spend a lot of time with the other overalls, and like we got to hang out and like pitch each other's ideas and stuff like that. I got to see a lot of different pitching styles. I'll tell you, my old boss Noah Jones, who made Pickle and Peanut with Joel Trussell, he is really charismatic, and he was able to just sort of walk into a room and effectively like pitch an idea in a way that sounded like kind of funny and effortless. And the first time I tried to do that, I like bombed and my throat choked up, and I couldn't think of anything to say, and I was like repeating myself, and then I'd go back to like, oh wait, no, but that thing I meant to say earlier. And so I learned a lot in sort of like what I thought was like an incubator, which was really nice. Like I've got to pitch a lot in friendly rooms and learn what style works for me, which is like a lot of prep. I pretty much treated them like boards. Like every single pitch I had was a slideshow that was essentially a storyboard I was pitching, where I knew what was coming and what jokes were up next.
So do you feel like you were compensating in other places that you were confident in to like distract from the places you were weak in or lacking in charisma in? Or do you feel like overall you just had to work on all the areas and like be sure about what you were pitching and it fell into place?
I just bailed completely on what I realized I wasn't good at. I wasn't good at thinking on my feet or being able to articulate very quickly if I didn't have it planned out.
Gotcha.
And like, so but I was good at pitching and I was good at writing jokes. So I had scripts essentially, and I would just do them the same as we would pitch an episode. Like I would pitch it to my wife first, because she's real good at telling me what sucks. and then,
nice. It's nice when you can like trust your like partner's opinion and they're not sugarcoating it. Yeah.
And you know, like you might write a joke and in your head you're like, that's funny. And then the first time you go to say it out loud, it like gets stuck in your throat. And you're like, it's no good. So you always gotta pitch it once in a very safe space before the exec see.
It's good advice.
Yeah. Can you tell us? Oh, also, I wanted to do a quick little shout out to Joel Trussell. We had him on the podcast. He's episode 174. It's a really fun episode.
Joel.
I wanted to ask you, so overalls now, for people listening who might not be familiar with what an overall is.
It's not a kind of pants. It's a different.
Oh, yeah. I got very lucky with the Disney overalls.
Yeah, because it's really hard to get. Once I asked a friend of mine, I was like, I think WB likes me, but I don't know how I can get an overall. And they're like, they don't do these anymore. And so how did you get yours?
Yeah. It really does feel like I think that era kind of ended with new media, like, and a lot of like belts being tightened lately, you know what I mean? They kind of went by the wayside. I think I caught like a really lucky wave at the end there.
You got in like Indiana Jones right as that the
stone door
closed.
shut. I grabbed that last hat.
Is it something that I was asking the question in order to, is it something that as an artist you can go up to like an exec or someone that you know at the studio, and is it a conversation that you start, or is it a conversation that they bring to you?
I mean, everybody wants that. They want new content. You can if you're in the studio, you're so far ahead of the game. You have an idea, you talk to the development exec. That's how it started for Stugo. Yeah, I pitched it at a coffee, and then they said, well, tell me more, and it was just a really small sort of, okay, make a Bible, okay, then you pitch that, there, okay, next, write the script, like, work on the Bible. It was, I think it's absolutely appropriate, and everyone wants good stuff. Take your idea, talk to whoever's in development, and because they want it. They want to make stuff. They need content.
Yeah.
Now, can we expect to see palm rot as a plot in Stugo?
Ooh, I did. It's so douchey. I did a little Easter egg to myself in the first episode where I have a bunch of like rockets shooting up into the skies, palm tree rockets. And originally there was going to be this like bearded old man, airboat man that could like navigate but I think Disney correctly said, like, this strange, threatening dude does not fit into this children's show.
Well, just for the audience, my obscure reference is Ryan's short online that you can look up, Palm Rot. It's absolutely beautiful. And do you feel like did that short in and of itself like break you into the industry, or were you already in before you released that short?
I'll tell you a story.
Tell me.
I really thought that short got into Sundance like a decade ago, and I was like, well, that's it. That's my career right there. I'm in. Nothing. There's no market for weirdo art shorts. Like, that's not a thing. Like, it's I realized slowly that these festivals are really about like like partying with other creatives. But at first I was like, this is it. I gotta work. I gotta find it. This is gonna be the rest of my life. But like, that's not really
Got you.
The short answer, no, it didn't do anything.
Because I saw that short, I was like, easy street. like after that drops, damn, like everyone's like just opening their doors. But it's not the case. Then how did you get in?
It got, honestly, it did. I am lying a little bit because I still had to take a test, but 2015 I sent that to Antonio Canobio at Titmouse, and he said like, okay, give this guy a test for Super Jail, and I didn't get that because that's very hard, but I did get another Disney show called Kirby
Buckets.
Kirby Buckets. Yeah,
I animated one shot on Kirby Buckets a long time ago.
Do you remember which character it was?
It was all of them at the same time buckling themselves into a bus seat, all of the little guys.
So yeah, they brought in a pro for that one. I was mostly doing a guy who had 3 butt cheeks. That was my
I don't know. I think that requires its own level of expertise.
I was pretty good in the secondary action.
That's crazy. It's interesting to hear you say that Sundance didn't do that, quote unquote, like that much for your career, like because from an outsider perspective, it is like kind of like, this is how you start your big tour career, and then you talk to producers and you show your short and then you get a big movie or something. But no.
Maybe I could have. Maybe that was maybe I could have pivoted in a different way. I don't want to put the kibosh on it, but really I think at that time it was just kind of validating to be like, okay, someone else thought that was cool.
Sure.
And then like, so you got a little more confident in your voice there. But yeah, V, now you're making me regret. I really should have, man. Maybe I could have pivoted that heat.
Yeah, you really,
it's
you
never
really
over.
Didn't follow up correctly. No.
But I'll say the Sundance thing, even that, the same as development, I think your idea has to be good to get greenlit.
Sure.
But that doesn't mean your good ideas, all good ideas get greenlit. You know, so many die. And so, you never know why something makes it or not, what survives, what little turtles make it to the ocean. But the same with Sundance. I was at a drinks party with like the film committee, and I was like, the guy who was the head of Sundance at the time told me like, oh yeah, I didn't get your short at all. And like a lot of them didn't like it, but basically one person who was on the committee was like, no, I like it a lot. And so like, it was just, even that was just luck of the draw. There's somebody that put their foot in the ground. It's all, we're all leaves in the wind, right? That's what I was saying. I'm gonna draw that leaf earlier.
Yes.
So I've heard that the key is when someone says that they don't get your short, you just say, I can't believe that you'd admit that. And you gaslight them into feeling very like they're too stupid to get it.
You didn't get it? It's so easy.
It's child's play.
No, I think it's fine.
No. I feel like as soon as you enter into that world, you're competing with. I mean, the type of like artistic worldwide shorts that you end up competing with is like, I don't know. That's pretty intimidating.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say that's crazy, and that's so true.
What a time to be alive. That's what I think. It was one of those things. I was so nervous. I really I think back on it. My main regret was like I should have had more fun. You know what I mean? Like at the time I was like, again, this is like big deal. I gotta like meet folks. I gotta do something with this. And at the time I should have been like, wow, I'm at Sundance.
Yeah.
Do you ever do that now? Do you ever kind of like, hey, I'm making a show. And even though all this stuff is so stressful, I gotta just take a second. Like, when's the last time that you've slowed down and kind of thought that?
It's a great question. I'm a little better at it now. I like to think, but no, I still definitely get caught up in it. Get caught up in like everything needs to get done.
Yeah.
There's a leak in the toilet. Car needs gas. It's hard. It's a good reminder, honestly, because I'm feeling it right now with you two. Show's out. Having fun, seeing friends, drawing on magma.
Yay! That's really, it's funny. It's true, but it's so hard to take a break. And it's funny that you're saying like taking a break is being on the podcast talking about your show. I wanted to ask a little bit more about the development side of things too. Was Stugo the one and only idea you pitched, or did you pitch also a bunch of other ideas? And was Stugo the one that made it?
It was the one that made it.
Mm-hmm.
I pitched a couple, but nothing, honestly, gratefully, they killed the other ones, they knew they didn't want them very quickly. You know, there wasn't a lot of like dawdling. Like I pitched a couple. One was just a lot more like me and my cousins did a lot of work when we were young, like 13 years old. And so it was about like child labor in Florida, I guess. And then they're like, probably not that one. And then I pitched another one that was based on one of my sister-in-law's drawings. That was a big, strong ghost in a Speedo called Strong Ghost. And they said, probably not that one.
Yeah, this series is called Coal Miners, and it's about kids that are miners that are in the coal mine, and they one of them has like black lung. He's like the typical like one who's coughing all the time, like, you know.
Yeah. No, I pitched all these to
That's
Elizabeth,
hilarious.
and she said, this is the one. She
Hell
said
yeah.
the Stugo one.
One was we had a pretty funny question on YouTube from a dinosaur club. Did you base the kids from Stugo off of your friend group as a kid or adult, or is it just another show where suits demand you make a proverbial Burger King kids club and you have to add more characters than first intended? If it's the latter, do you think it's a positive or negative for them to do that? And then the show is really fun, so they really do like the show.
Hey, thanks for the question. What are they, Dinosaur Man?
Yeah.
Yeah, what do the suits make you do? No.
Yeah.
No, I think I told this story a few times, so forgive me if I'm like repeating myself. This is not an exclusive here, but I based it partially on a trip like a study abroad I took to the Bahamas in college, a wood carving class I took, and that kind of went off the rails in a really exciting way. And I met my wife on that trip. But
nice.
So it was partly based on that group of friends, but also I had just watched that documentary Spellbound. Have you seen that? It's like from 2011. It's about spelling bee champions, and it's following all these kids who are like so wound up, and they're so self-inflicted, and I was like really fascinated by them. And so basically I just came up with this sort of cast of kids, and they were definitely flatter, you know, and some were more like stereotypical and probably characters you have seen in other shows. And like that's one of the really nice things about if you're lucky enough to get to make something, like then all this other team of like board artists and writers then come in and designers, and they like fleshed I think there are a couple characters that I was like, yeah, this is who they should be. And then everyone else, they got more interesting. Everyone else got more fleshed out along the way. But I had more. The execs and I agreed. We just killed one, Manolo. Manolo was one kid who didn't make it because there's just too many kids. And I think he was the most, my pitch for him was just that if all the kids were smarties, like this is one kid whose parents like bribed their way to get this kid on the island. Like he was not a smarty. And I think...
Do you feel like the pitching process for these kids is like, do you think about it like these kids are playing Hunger Games in the pitch room, and it's like the best, the ones with the best personalities are like winning and the other ones are dying, and you have a little like character graveyard?
Honestly, I wish. It's all like, oh, I couldn't make this one interesting. I'm a fucking idiot. No, but it was a lot of... the cast stayed pretty sticky from the very beginning, just kind of because I had those base points. And then I did what I recommend anybody does to help you write. Like, it's impossible to not like accidentally write jokes you've seen before if you consume as much media as we do.
Yeah.
But like the number one thing I started doing was putting people I've known for my life into categories for each character. Like to be like, who do I know that's like this? And like you put them in these big lumps, and then that just kind of maybe helps you like tap your own memories a little bit more. Because then when you're moving on, it to me it helps. Because man, it's so hard for me not to like. If I'm ever really proud of a joke, I'm like, that's so weird. Where'd that come from? It's from 30 Rock or The Simpsons. That's where it's from. It's like
that's so funny. It's funny to hear that. I feel like sometimes, but I do have like moments like that where like there's a joke I wrote in my comic and people are like, that's hilarious. So I'm like, that's from Peter Sellers' Pink Panther, but it's fine. Nobody has to know. Nobody has to know. I just redressed the joke a little bit, but
I mean, even like a lot of those jokes end up being about just common experiences. Like there's a short that I made where a little baby is taking his fingers and squishing things, like from their point of view it's like they can squish a person. And that is it. What that was in like an old sketch show, I think. and people were like, "Oh, did you get it from this?" And I was like, "No, it's just something I did as a kid." But like
everybody done that, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I wish that I had that superpower that I could just smush people, and then also how horrifying that would be if I had that superpower. But
thank God no one granted your wish.
Yeah, I'm so glad.
Oh my God, that's a show. For later day.
Squish Baby.
Squish Baby. So, because you said you were in development for 6 years, how much have you tell us what happens for development to take this long? Because I feel like sometimes when we hear it in interviews, we hear it from people, we think that like you're working constantly every day on it.
Yeah.
But was that your experience? What was it like?
I honestly, when I think about how long it's been, it's hard for me to figure it out. But but no, because it is a lot of like you pitch a lot, you wait for feedback, you write and develop, you pitch a lot, and then like I said, they would for months at a time. I would go and I would maybe board and direct an episode of Mickey Mouse. I did that a couple times, and then I think what extended this extra long is that I made an original pilot that didn't have any of the mutants in it. The show has animal mutants in it, and then they were always going to be part of the show, but for some reason I was like, this is all too much at once to introduce all these kids, the whole premise, and these weirdo mutants, and like it got all the way. Like we cut an animatic, we focus tested it, and it focus tested really bad. I was like focusing way too much on how like anxious these kids were, and guess what? Kids don't like to watch a bunch of nervous kids be nervous. and Disney let me, which is to me wild, and I think about it all the time. They said like they let me have another at bat. They said try it again. They said I wrote a different pilot and boarded it. This time I got help, and Zach Marcus. Zach, who I haven't seen in a while.
Hell yeah.
But
so you had some help with writing, you got some backup.
Yeah, that was one of the things. I got the second again, I think I'm funny. But I know that everything I've ever made that's really funny, like I can see the jokes I got from other people in there. Like it's all the stew. Like when we were working on Pickle and Peanut together, like the episode got good when I started talking to the board artists around me and started like pitching them my problems, right? And then pitching me solutions, and then like they would catch some heat. So when they let me, which I can't believe they did, and I'm very grateful for, when they let me have a second, instead of just killing it, they said try one more time, and I said, can I have some help this time? And I got them in, and then that's the pilot that ended up getting greenlit.
That's awesome. Yeah.
No, I feel like that's also like how some people write. Like I think that some people, especially conversational people or people that like saying jokes out loud and kind of a little improv back and forth, like some people write really well like that. I mean, I know some people that just lock themselves away and they're like, I'm just the only one, and that works for them. But it sounds like you like kind of found how you needed to write, maybe.
Absolutely, yeah. I think they're all different kinds. And then some people, they're amazing to me. They just got it, and like they know what they want to do, and they have that tone. But I learned that quick. Like I need to be talking to people. I need to be like working things out. Yeah. Otherwise, I get stale.
That was one of the things I loved so much about the Pickle and Peanut crew, and just for everybody at home, Ryan and I worked on Pickle and Peanut. Ryan was my director for an episode or two, I forget. But that was one of my favorite things about that show, is how communicative the other board artists were and how much of a sounding board we all had.
That was a weird show.
It was
R.I.P. Good product. Upset a lot of people. I tell you, that's the weird thing too about having 8 years pass. To me, I'm the same guy, but that's enough time for a child to become an adult. And now, like, to see some people online, like college students, remembering Pickle and Peanut, I'm like, don't remember it. It just happened.
Yeah. It's funny how it's funny how time passes so fast from like at different times of your life, right? Because like you're saying is like, well, we're in our career, and a show that we made, like there's a show I worked on in France that I thought nobody would ever watch, because a lot of the shows that we make in France don't really like get shown in the US or whatever. But like 10 years later, a fan in Europe found it and became obsessed with that show, and they would and I was like, the show's too old for you to care about it. You're not supposed to care about this anymore.
The internet, nothing goes away now.
Yeah, it's very interesting. How did it happen for you? So you were at Disney, you were developing Studio. How did it happen for Titmouse to be the studio making it? Like, what's that process?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think Disney's again, they're experimenting with how to produce shows in like this new climate, and so they said, okay, the show's getting made, and then they hit it up and they said we're going third party, like this isn't going to be produced in house,
Hmm.
and there's like I think there was an opportunity to look around, but like I had a history with Titmouse, and it was like, please, let's go to Titmouse. It was like it was an option on the table, and yeah, I'm not sure. That's a business question, V. You gotta have somebody else on the podcast. So
I guess
that was told to me.
no, but
I said okay.
No, but that's kind of a good answer, because I was wondering if that was something that you guys were talking about since the beginning, or something that happened later down the pipeline. And I think it's interesting, and it's cool to hear that so you said you're the one who pitched Titmouse, right? You're the one who was
no. They
did.
said like, hey, these are these studios, these third party studios in town, and like Titmouse is on the list, and I was like, well, I know them, I've worked for them. Let's do that, and I'm a fan of them.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool because it's like, I mean, and Titmouse always does great work. They're like, they grew like so big.
Yeah, I know. They're like one of the biggest animation companies in America now.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And they just opened that big building right before COVID, and I think we were like one of the first. When we started production, we still all had to wear masks and stuff. But I think it's finally, people are still. Look at you guys drawing all the characters. Did you have to practice this? How do you know them so well? Do you have little photos up?
Oh, I literally have the dude. I have the page up. I can't remember them.
I think that we're really good.
That was the funny thing. We got to visit. Because I honestly, I rarely drew them in my position. I would like board sometimes, but we went to visit the animation studio Snipple in Manila, and they said like, hey, we draw the characters on the wall, and I went, oh shit. I was like, what do they look like? I had to pull them up on my phone to make sure.
It's like you're taking a design test. You're like,
yeah, I was like, uh-oh. I mostly drew a big snake on the wall because that was more in my wheelhouse. I'm gonna draw a snake now, I think. I kind of am in this spaghetti over here.
That's so funny. That's funny. It's funny because I feel like I had a little bit of that experience when I did my cartoons short, where I was just like, I drew my characters like in the boards, and then that was it, and then everybody else drew them. It's crazy when that happens. I don't know what is it.
And I think that this show specifically, like, I think there's some people who's like, the thing that gets made is their style. Like, they're incredibly involved in like what the world looks like. But this was a much more of a Sam Bosma joint, and he came in and like the art director. Mm-hmm. And the character designers, and they came in and like we talked about it. We tried to find a style that like we all liked and felt like volumetric and like simple and easy to move around and like chunky, and it was more of a synthesis. So it's not the same as like you just whipping your pen out and being like, this is my style.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not. You don't feel like this is your exact drawing style. It's like you invented a drawing style that has like things from what you do, but it's not how you would draw naturally exactly.
I'll tell you, the number one thing that I loved, and I realized really early, was that like everybody on the show loves animals, and they love how weird they are. And so like whenever they were drawing these mutant animals, they weren't like shaving off the weird edges. They were like usually making them larger and more bulbous. It was like they're accentuating all the weird parts, and I was like, this is a good crew.
I'm always curious about how people that get a show through and have honed their pitching talk about their show. For people who maybe are going to be checking out Stugo from this, how would you pitch Stugo to them?
The thing that I always had in my back pocket when I started having to repeat it all the time was that it's like Lord of the Flies if all the kids were sweet nerds and the island was designed by Ray Harryhausen. Like that's what I always said.
That's awesome.
And
it's funny that you're pitching it this way, because I remember once talking with an exec, not at Disney, but like a different company, and I mentioned Lord of the Flies because I think there's something really cool about Lord of the Flies, like how it's like I don't know, kids left to their own device or something really interesting there. But it's like usually a big no-no, like in terms of like a reference to
because it's
growing
dark.
up.
Because
Yeah,
it's
it's dark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess my pitch was like, Lord of the Flies, not dark.
Not dark. Yeah.
Trust me.
Yeah.
That's so funny. That's so funny.
Because that was the big thing. Like, what if it was these kids from Spellbound, these kids who, like, I had freakouts when I was young about tests, like spelling tests.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember my mom telling me, like, it's just school. And I was like, what are you talking about? This is the only thing there is.
This is my whole life. Yeah.
Yeah, this they tell me if I'm good or not. And they, so it's like a bunch of kids like that. They get in a Lord of the Flies situation, they're just worried about, like, flashcards and sunscreen.
So once you have your show got it was in development and you went through all of the different steps, you did your 2 pilots and then it got picked up and then they assigned you a vendor. What was the next step? What was it like? Tell us a little bit about the steps, how it happens. We want to be on that journey to being a first-time showrunner with you.
It is spooky. That's the spookiest time because, again, right, these things are huge collaborations. And I had been in a bubble. Not in a bubble, like more like a coffin. Like I had been alone for so long. I'd had
a coffin, but not dark.
Not dark. It's a really colorful, fun coffin. Yeah. But like, I just had been working alone. I had a wonderful editor, Bryce, and like, feedback from people. And, but I just didn't know who was around anymore when I was coming out. I didn't know who was like, what was going on when it was time to like hire up. And the first thing I met with a bunch of story editors. Luckily I was a fan of Sam Bosma, and so when we got closer, when they said okay to the pilot, the step after that was an animation test because they make all these materials and they focus test them. And then I think I focus tested okay. Like I passed a threshold that wasn't, but it still ended up being like an executive decision. It didn't focus test like gangbusters. Mm-hmm. And then we made an animation test, and that's where we got Sam. That was huge. Mm-hmm. And then, because I've been a fan of his for a while, met a lot of wonderful people for story editor, and ended up with Craig Lewis. You guys know Craig?
I don't know Craig.
I don't know Craig.
Craig's a tall man with a big heart.
Oh, now I know him.
Yeah. And, but the first thing I did was my old director. You remember Sunil? Mm-hmm. Sunil Hall? He directed on Gravity Falls and Pickle and Peanut, and he directed me for a season. He helped. I think his word went a long way in getting me promoted for season 2. And the first thing I did was like beg him to come be like EP with me because I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, man.
Oh, that must have felt good though.
He was burnt. He'd made 2 seasons of a show, and the second one was all during COVID, Mighty Ones on Hulu. Oh, and yeah. And he was the first time he was like down. He hung out with me for like 3 hours and like talked me through what to expect, things to look out for, like really. But then he was like, "But I can't. Like I'm so burnt out. Like I can't do this again." And I was like, "Okay, you got it." And then like in a month, I was like, "Hey, you want to do this thing again?" And he was like, "I'm so burnt out." I was like, "Sure thing, bud." And then I ended up hitting him up again. And then he was like, "Okay, I'll do it,
please."
Yeah.
Oh,
and I'm very grateful he did because he did call, and I think. Season 1s are always hard because you're all figuring out what this thing is, but there was as few bumps as possible, I think. So many called shots, like, hey, this is going to be difficult. Or, like, he could look at something on paper that to me would be gibberish because I had not experienced it yet, and he would see, like, oh, this is going to be a problem, And I'd be like, oh
that's so valuable.
Thank goodness. Yeah, because he'd been through it twice.
Wow, yeah.
What's it? Do you have an example of something like that?
The first things he was looking at was just the layout of the teams, like the amount of time, like production charts, seeing like how these 2 things are overlapping. Like this gap's going to be really difficult. Like, wait, these 2 things shouldn't be happening at the same time. To me, I'm looking at a rainbow chart for the first time, which is this giant cascading thing that shows you what you're doing every day for the next 2 years. And you go, looks good to me. And he was able to look at that and say, no, these things are issues. And also, like, hey, if we have this few editors, this is going to be a pinch here. Like he was able to see through the matrix there. Yeah.
Yeah, because you get into a situation where, like, it's like you can't start this next process before you get notes on this, and we have to allow more time for notes because who knows how long they'll take to get notes back to us. That's That's a hard part of production for sure.
And nobody's ever doing one thing at a time, right? So even if the thing on the calendar just says like, you know, you're delivering this animatic, that's what's happening this week. But that editor's still editing 2 other episodes that are going to pitch the next week. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like it's this giant ball, and the production team's got to figure it all out. And they were amazing at like, we were changing things so much just to try and make things work better. And everyone was just moving pieces around the whole time. Isn't it crazy that there's not like a single recipe on how to do this?
Oh, dude, no, and it's different for every half of the shows. What part of the overlap and part of the process is the most hard on you? Did you find?
I think there was a period. Because there's a period where we were delivering like one finished script, pitching one storyboard, pitching one animatic a week. Jeez. And at the early days, I was pitching all the boards myself because I was like, I wanted to be the final lens on the stuff. And eventually, like everyone was like surpassing me, and the director started pitching it, and I was gratefully silent. But there was a brief period where we were just delivering every week new script, and that week we were usually breaking a new story that would like, so it was like break a new story, deliver a script, deliver an animatic, deliver a board. And I was like, I'd go home and I'd say, that's a lot of stuff we did this week.
Yeah, wow. That's crazy. I feel like, season 1s are always so crazy. How is the pilot for you? I know you talked about doing a pilot and you got focus tested, but like, was that the actual final pilot that went into production?
There's an episode called Dog Eat Dog that was essentially the second pilot I made that we just popped in. The only thing we added was an extra mutant to it that I had made in the interim. But that one was great. Like everyone agreed, like, okay, this is the show, and we had the cast at that point, so it really was just kind of like the North Star thing, and we sent it out. Again, that was another interesting thing Sunil had us do, is like the first episode we shipped wasn't going to be the first episode that aired, because he knows that like your relationship with the vendor studio, Snipple was amazing, but like you're ironing out a lot of kinks. So the first episode that ever got animated was the 4th that aired, Noodle It.
Interesting.
And like, so like he knew that like, hey, you're going to want to put your best foot forward, so let's ship the first episode like 3rd or 4th in the production order and like all this stuff. You know, a lot of clever hacks, life hacks, everybody.
Speaking of life hacks, I was curious about if there was intentional thought put into, like, I was thinking about how this show really feels like intentionally like this sandbox where almost anything can happen, and it gives you, I feel like you have a lot of freedom to do all different kinds of things and have all different kinds of characters. Was there an intentional broadening? Was there a time when it actually might have been more finite?
No, you nailed it, man. When I was on the overall, what I started doing was like, because I'm like a note taker, and I was going through like years of notes that I just make the notes, I never read them again, and so all of a sudden I had like time to look at all these old notes and these ideas and like go through my old sketchbooks. And I made like 4 different piles, and like of like, oh, all these ideas could fit here, you know, and like all these ideas, like stuff that sort of made sense together to me. And so then there's one huge pile that turned into Stugo that was sort of like animal stuff. I was born and raised in Florida, so like tropical heat madness and like you know, like just the sci-fi Johnny Quest, like this kind of. I just had a huge stack of stuff, and then I just kind of simmered it until it became this pitch. And it was honestly, that's the part of the pitching process. I had that experience about going to the island, right? And it's not, there's a lot more to this idea, but it is really helpful, I think, because what executives have to do and what they like your project, they have to pitch it up the ladder. So if you have a simple story that they can be like this, you know, like if you have a reason that you got to this idea that is like exciting and can be communicated quickly, like this happened to this guy, or like this, you know, like this, that's a easy thing to pass up the ladder to get people like, okay, let's watch the pitch. Let me see it again.
That's so true. I feel like this is something that maybe we don't hear enough as creatives and or people who pitch, is how important it is to make that pitch easy for your exec to pitch up the ladder. Because sometimes I don't know if both of you guys have ever felt this way, but I feel like sometimes looking back on the way that I've pitched, like my exec will get it, but then I'm thinking back on it and I'm like, maybe I didn't make it easy enough for them to take it to somebody else. You know what I mean? Like the idea isn't it's clear between the both of us, but we haven't agreed on a way to communicate it to somebody else than the two of us. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I got to shift my sense of humor to stop being centered around finding convoluted funny. I make things complicated on purpose because I think that's funny, and then it makes everyone's life hard.
And I honestly, I don't mean to. I actually even feel dubious giving advice because truly, these machines are so big, and there's so many things out of everyone's control. I don't want to see V wonder like what they did wrong, right? Because honestly, you probably had a good idea that the exec liked and pitched at the ladder, and then, who knows what machine happened that day. There's like a weird. It's impossible to know what or why. So I don't want to self-mythologize too much and be like, this is why Stugo made it. No, Stugo could have made it because, someone had an amazing drive to work that day with no traffic, and then they saw the animatic. They're like, I love it. You have no idea why or what. But yeah, work hard, be nice. Yeah, that's the advice.
I always say to people who feel like a kind of an imposter syndrome about giving advice, that you're describing what you did. It doesn't mean that everybody has to do it that way, but we are interested in how you did it.
Yeah, well, that's sweet. Yeah, that's what I did. I focus mostly on I think the people pleasing might have gotten me a long way. I focus mostly on the pitch in the room. Like,
nice.
I really eschewed a lot of details, and I just went for laughs. Like, the same as you'd pitch a board. I had these slideshows, and I'm just like, I'm not telling him anything if it's not getting a laugh. And I just whittled it down. But that's tough. So maybe you're not pitching a comedy show.
No, that's really smart. I think that's the thing where it's like, I think that's so hard. It's so hard to do that part. Especially when you're used to pitching with, like you said, with the board. Like, did you have an entire actual board? Like, how many slides? Here's a good question. How many slides did you have in your pitch?
Oh, yeah, I can pull it up for you, V.
No way. We are going to get the actual number.
You're going to get the actual number.
Yeah, our fans love numbers. This is great.
When they hear this number, they're going to go wild.
Everybody put a plastic cover over your screens because you're about to do a split take. You're going to lose your shit.
Let's see. Oh, that's right. This show was originally called Very Safe Contest. That's what this folder's... That was the flyer they all got in the mail to come to the island.
Is that an exclusive? Have you told them?
That's
Exclusive.
That's an exclusive. Is there pitching? Is this worth the time I'm eating up?
Well, we can always have Clem cut this down a little bit. That's all good.
Archive. I keep everything. Yeah, I got a Bible. I have then I made a super abbreviated pitch as it got. I had a bunch. I made so many versions of this depending on who it's. You have to pitch so much to so many different people. It's looking like 80 slides.
80 slides.
But it was like an animatic. Like, I would have the letters pop up in a way that was so like things were moving on screen. I was like tapping through it a lot. It's like I wanted motion on the screen. I didn't want to have to sit and explain a slide. Sure. Like, if I was saying something, I was tapping through it.
Wow, that's cool. It's interesting. No, those are the kind of interesting things we want to hear, because I feel like a lot of the classes that I've taken, or a lot of the advice that I see online a lot, is like, you need like 24 slides or something, So it's really interesting to hear that there's different ways of doing it, and this is one of the ways.
You move through it fast as possible. I honestly think that's real advice. The amount of information these people have to see a day, go so quick. Go so as quick as you can through this stuff, I think is helpful.
It seems like that was probably a big pitch in the scope of importance of pitches in your life. Can you remember anything like a certain joke that hit the most, or something that caught you off guard, how much people laughed? Or
early Pickle and Peanut, man, that was my first storyboarding gig where I was actually writing, and then it was just nerves. I got lucky. I I definitely pitched stuff that didn't go great, but I never bombed. Because I always pitched. I'm lucky, so not everyone has someone in the house, but I always pitched to Katie first. So no one saw my worst stuff. Like no one, like Kate, except my wife. and so that was always my secret. Like, and my director, they'd see that. But then I just learned on that show, something can sound good in your head, and then it's not until you have to. I really value the pitching process because it's so different. Like, saying it in front of a room, your body it starts to sweat. It knows you're like, you did that joke sucks, pal. Mm-hmm. And so like practice that first, even to a friend, and like instantly if you weren't sure about this punchline or you're not sure what to hear, your body immediately knows when you have to say it out loud.
What was there?
And so just don't do that in front of your boss the first time. You don't want to learn that live.
Yeah. Was there an intuitive moment during that pitch where you were like, I think I got this? Like no. Based on their reactions or anything, or just the whole time you were like, ah!
No, first pitch they laughed, but it was the first time I ever pitched. I don't know if they always laugh. I think after a while I got a sense that they don't always laugh. So then retroactively I was like, okay, then we're faking it. But nice. No, at the time I left and I sat and I went, hi. I hope it went good.
Oh no! Oh yeah.
I wanna go back into production a little bit. So you were directing before you were EP. What are can you describe how different it is going from directing to being a showrunner?
Yes. Happily.
Yes.
Showrunning was it's a lot more decisions, a lot more quickly, which is something that I found out I'm not very good at. That's another reason I was very grateful to have Sunil. He's pretty decisive. And I like wax, and I again, like Sean was saying, I got to sort of talk things out and figure it out, which is not great for someone in that role. And I'll rethink and I'll double back. I think that's not great for a director either. I loved boarding. I think I was a great board artist. And Sean, you can probably attest to this. I think I was a mid director because I think I would have to really talk. I would have to really talk and think, and then I might come back and be like, that thing I said, opposite. And so I would leave. When I boarded, I'd be like, man, I sure did a lot of good work today. And every day I left directing, I'd drive home and be like, man, I hope I fucking did anything today. I hope.
Well, just to let you know, that is not what I was thinking.
Okay.
I felt very lucky to have a very funny, open director. I don't want to blow too much smoke up your bum, but
you can go ahead.
But when I was working with you and you were my director, I felt very safe because I thought you were one of the funniest people on the crew, and nice. and there's jokes that you would punch up and jokes that I felt safe pitching because you were so open to funny. And I also think that it's very rare for people to be able to express themselves and have jokes and write in the way that you do while also being very good at drawing. And so I felt very safe, there's problems that everybody has when they direct in being like, oh, okay, is that a good decision? I think that's a different story, but I did feel good with you as a director.
John, I'm gonna listen to that recording again when I'm low. Thanks.
No problem.
No, it means a lot, man. I do think what you tapped on though is something I've learned as well that I think is a really big deal. Feeling safe to say your worst idea. Nothing good comes from a crew where you feel like you might be chastised for saying something stupid. Mm-hmm. Everything good comes from a crew where people cheer when you say something stupid.
True. Because sometimes stupid is funny, and sometimes I felt like on that, sometimes I would put something so stupid in a board that I knew it wasn't going to make it in, but I was like, I'll put it in to make people laugh, and I know it's going to get taken out, but it's a really stupid idea. And I think that kind of ability to that kind of culture of risk taking and
mm-hmm.
It's nice.
Keeps the mood light too.
Yeah,
I am very grateful for having been on Pickle and Peanut because I think I might have just been a head up my butt animationist film guy.
Oh.
And only trying to make, and I think it's really valuable. I love guys, don't get me wrong, I love cinema, but I think that show, the clarity of purpose that Noah and Joel had, and they were just like, is this funny? Like no, like the drawings were funny, like everything was just pointing towards being funny, and I was really interested. Like, it felt like I was getting shaken around by my collar and just being like, relax.
Yeah. I think it's nice to be. I agree. I think it's so nice to be on a show. Like for me, I think it was my experience on Thundercats Roar, which Victor Courtwright was the showrunner he was on Pickle and Peanut. So I feel like I got to experience that a little bit through being on that show, where it's like, okay, we can be silly and goofy and try to find funny things.
That show's so great, by the way. Congratulations on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked about that show a bunch on the podcast.
I'm sad. Some hate, like Pickle and Peanut.
I'm sad that it got like tanked so much online and it didn't get a chance. But the animation was so good and it had a lot of funny ideas. So I think it's just like, I think if it had been the same show but not an IP, just not the Thundercats, it would have had a chance. But it's just
I know it's like a cosmic tragedy that I really feel like the internet it's blood in the water, and like it just makes up its mind early. Like Pickle and Peanut, they decided like, we hate this, and so then that was it. Like, and it's really hard to change that narrative. And like, I think the most nervous I was ever about Stugo was that first week, because I was like, they're gonna decide right now if like they like it or I get death threats. Like that's what's like gonna happen. And I just feel really lucky that they said like, okay, this one's fine. But I was like, I don't think, I'm not saying that's a quality judgment. It just, you can't tell what's you're gonna survive in the game.
Well, did another show that everyone loves get canceled around the similar time? So now that everyone will blame your show, like that's part of it. I think it's a big chance. It's a big chance scenario.
That's true, because you guys came out right after Gravity Falls, right? That was the big the contention. Point of contention.
They canceled Gravity Falls for this. And we said, yeah.
So
funny.
The Puzzle Glum on Patreon asks, how do you learn best to draw fast and clear enough to storyboard professionally, especially with the sheer speed that's required? They say it's very intimidating to them.
I draw up my roughs are pretty gnarly, actually. I thumb on paper, which is great, and most of my thumbs they're just like it's an oval. The oval is this character, and then like I don't know, I'm slow. I'm sorry, I don't got a good answer for you.
On page 2, if I drew a little box, can you draw an example of what?
Yes, my thumbs.
Your thumbs.
Yeah, so this isn't the thumb I would pitch. This is the thumb that's for me when I'm like blocking something out.
Oh, if you want to make your own box, you can.
Oh yeah, thank you, please.
I don't want to box you in, bud.
So there's a thumb for me, and then I go P. That's for planet. And go like, what the heck? and then I'll go, and maybe it'll be like, oh, and then that'll be for me, and that'll be my little shot guide. And then when I go to like Storyboard Pro, I'll actually like put their bodies in there, and then I'll clean them up a little bit. But I think it's important to work fast just to be loose. Not necessarily like because the work demands it, but like it's funnier. Your characters will, like, your gestures will be looser if you work really quickly and then clean it up after the fact. So definitely do a loose one. But that's for me. That's my boarding.
Yeah. How do you counteract? I think a big issue in the industry is that is the subject of overboarding. Like adding too many poses. How do you sort of check that conversation in your head? Like, am I drawing too many poses here, or am I not drawing enough?
It's different, right? Because we used to have like layout departments, and we used to have the board. A lot's on the board artists these days, and so I think Sunil taught me that actually. I showed up after layout was already gone, but the amount that we ask is a ton. I think it's. If you're just starting, it's natural you want to like show off. But again, for a comedy show, think about the purpose of the scene. Does this require acting to land? Yes or no? Like, no, not really. The vendor studios are incredible lately. And if you're an asset-based show, especially if you're doing like a X sheet traditional show, it's just required for you to do a little bit more acting. But we went asset-based because we kind of knew we knew where we wanted to burn our beans. We knew that we wanted to spend more time. This is going to be a comedy show, not necessarily action or something that required a ton. But Snipple actually, I thought, delivered incredible performances from boards that were usually like, the board artists are great, but they would definitely pick their moments. That's what you got to do. Like, hey, this scene isn't going to be any funnier if I show the kid like leaning back and forth. But this scene will, like, the director Steve Wolfhard, I don't think I've ever seen anyone put more pauses in anything. Oh, Steve Wolford, excuse me. I always call him Wolfhard. Turns out that's wrong.
Oh,
But
that's how I always said his name in my head. So I'm
Wolford.
Wolford.
There's a million different ways. Steve, I've never seen anyone put more panels into a thing. And there's so much control in the performance there. That's the drawback. The less you do, the more of like interpretation there is for what you meant. So what you get back, you can't really be mad if you're like, well, that's not the performance I wanted. We're like, well, you didn't put it in there, did you? You got to be cool with that. Mm-hmm. If you want something really specific, you got to draw it.
Oh, that actually, I think, leads into another good question, which is, how do you allow yourself and open up yourself to having this thing that is yours under your name be collaborative with other people's jokes, other people's drawing styles? And is there some, like, do you ever have that urge to like I need to touch everything, I need to, how do you dial that back?
Early for sure, I definitely, right, I was like, I'll pitch the board, I want to be last hands on the board. But that was just because we were all getting, it's hard to communicate tone, right? Yeah. And it's hard to, and so we were just all getting on the same page. And at some point, personally for me, I was looking forward to, maybe someone will disagree with me. Maybe ask someone on the crew. Maybe they think I was a megalomaniac. But I was looking forward to this more than anything. Like when it started to take off, like when other people started to take ownership, like, and when they started like pitching me stuff or talking about these characters like they were like real, not mine, that started getting really exciting. And like then awesome. They kind of it started to take up heat. And then people started making things so much stranger than I ever could have imagined. And that's when I thought we were sailing, actually. The earliest part was the hardest. Because that's, again, not, sure, some bad ideas, but sometimes they just were like the wrong idea. And it doesn't feel good to be like, no. But at the very beginning, there's a lot of like, no, that's not this show, but nobody knows yet. And then at some point, you don't even need to say that anymore.
Yeah, it's like when you're siphoning gasoline out of someone else's gas tank with your own mouth. You're going to suck in some awful, nasty juice, but once you get it going, it's just flowing and it's filling up the bucket.
That's exactly what it's like. And I gotta say, this is the nicest siphoning experience I ever had.
I love that you do this joke, Sean, after talking on the pod about how you like having a convoluted sense of humor.
I felt like that metaphor was pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
For anyone who has the life experience of stealing gas out of someone's car by using your mouth to suck on the hose to get it started pumping out, and then
it's hard at first.
Well, I learned it from my physics teacher. That's how you start it through the hose, and then. Actually, that I learned it from working at PetSmart. That's how you clean the aquariums. You start sucking it with your mouth, and then before any of the nasty fish juice gets in your mouth, you put it in the bucket.
Suck the aquarium water out at the PetSmart?
Yeah, and the first few times I got a big old mouth of goldfish juice. But after I was a pro, you suck quick, and then you just trust that the liquid's coming, and then you pour it in the bucket, and then you can drain the whole aquarium that way, even if you're not tipping the aquarium over.
That's crazy.
That's pro maneuver. If you did that in front of me, if I saw you suck the aquarium water out without getting any in your mouth in front of me, I'd go, oh my fucking God. this guy's amazing. Drained a whole aquarium. He didn't even tip it.
He's draining that aquarium with sunglasses on. That guy's so cool.
Oh my God. Let's see. Well, I'll also like pepper in some like questions about the show because I think that's also fun. Oh, that one is interesting. On Twitter, Max Cobell asks, now that the show is out, would you change anything? Or do you like the final result? It's such a...
Oh my God, this is a dangerous question.
It's so loaded. It's so funny, though.
Will you let yourself have this conversation? Have you shut it off and you're like, it's okay the way it is? Like,
I was thinking about this the other day. It's like rosy recollection. The pain, like I don't remember it at all. Like anything that was stressful or like it is just what it is now. So there's this. Yeah, I've disassociated. And like now you look at it and you go like, yeah, that's what that is, because that's what it is. You can't remember. I don't remember the alternate paths. Like all the stuff we sweated over, I could like every like argument we had about like whether or not a kid would do that or what would be funny, like it's just done now. And so you look at it and you go, okay, great. I don't remember.
Do you remember any of the arguments of like whether a kid would do that? I know that you just said that you don't, but now I'm curious about like having some kids do a situation and having someone go, a kid would never do that. Like
everyone was really good. Most of our arguments were really just about like story math.
Yeah,
what would be interesting, what would be exciting. Everyone was really good at writing the kids and like having them react. Like, but no, nice. When we were banging our heads against something, it was just like, how do we make it surprising? How do we make it? How do we make it satisfying? And then sometimes you'd leave and take a walk. That was the worst, man. If you ever left, sometimes you leave a writing session, you're like, we did it. And then other times you just like, well, it's the end of the day, I guess. You just feel constipated. You're like, we didn't do nothing. We didn't solve it.
We just brought up a whole bunch of problems at the very end of the day that we didn't get to solve.
And, Okay. See you tomorrow. Everyone go to sleep, I guess.
Everyone lie awake, I guess.
Does it ever get easier? Is there ever moments where you're like, you trust the process a little more, and you're like, okay, we might not have figured it out today, but I know we'll figure it out tomorrow.
Everything but writing. Like boarding, yes. Animatics, yes. Music, sound. It's always like, yeah, we'll get. I have so much confidence in that. That's where boarding's my comfort zone. Writing was not. I don't think I'm a just story math guy. Mm. Again, thank God I had other writers and Craig and Sunil, but that to me just felt like, well, if I didn't think of it, what if we never think of it?
What are your biggest takeaways on writing after being in that writer's room for a whole show?
I guess simple's better, because it's gonna get more complicated. Like it's better to put ornaments on a very simple tree. But again, even then, we ended up doing weird time travel stuff, and we didn't even follow that rule. But I don't know. The character has to have a want. Mm-hmm. Activities to challenge that want. I think, again, my more animation is art brain was rejecting traditional story rules. I wanted to feel punkier than that. I wanted to feel like I was cooler than traditional story rules. But man, just don't reinvent the wheel. These things are made by people who've done more research and smarter than I. And it's really nice to just have it get you out of problems. When you hit a problem, you start to learn more about your craft. And you're like, well, you start to have words for this is a problem because this obstacle has nothing to do with the character's desire. You start to find these little tools, and I started to feel less and less like a hack for using them. It felt more and more like just somebody who was good at their job, I guess.
That's funny that's your character arc. You're like, no, it has to be punk and art, and I can't follow the rules.
As I was making a Disney comedy cartoon.
But wouldn't you say that your kids and Stugo are all about following the rules, and then the takeaway is that sometimes you don't follow the rules or something?
Within us are two wolves, V.
One's a wolf and one's a kid.
That's a really, really interesting insight. I'm going to think about that one.
I don't know. I just thought that was really funny.
Yeah, no, it's a parallel I had not considered.
Because you have to follow the rules to tell people to not follow the rules.
Well, yes, okay.
That's true. That's true. And was there any impulse because you realized that you had to follow the rules to make the kids not follow the rules, but still you're following the rules to write those kids breaking the rules as a form of escape?
I had never did I have this level of introspection.
Surprise therapy.
Keep it simple.
Just
Keep
for
it simple.
Yeah. It honestly, it just felt like every single one we were like, someone had an idea that made us laugh, we'd try and break it, and some things would sail right through, and other ones, you'd get halfway down the process and be like, uh-oh, big problem. You'd have to go back to it, and everything was just I think that, to me, at some point, okay, retroactively, to me, I took that as a sign that we weren't phoning it in, that every episode was its own beast to sort of break. Mm-hmm. It's well, that means we're not too formulaic. Every single... We weren't able to find such a perfect formula but
Mhm.
I think it is valuable to just like read about how stories are made. All right, V and I are both on Dinosaur with Beard track.
Nice. How did you, like, I want to, like, now that we've talked about Stugo a lot and like pitching and working on the show, I also kind of want to ask how you started in animation. What was your first gig and how did you get into the biz?
First gig was animator Titmouse. I like did some freelance boarding before that, but came out here, learned animation at USC, and then
Nice.
that's another thing that's tough advice for people trying to get in the industry. It's like it's the people it'll be your friends that you meet that help you learn. It's tough to get that advice because that's like, okay, well I can't just make that happen, and people are hungry and they want to make it happen. But honestly though, my little short film I sent to Titmouse and got a test, and they got my first gig that way, just cold emailing with like some work and a portfolio. But then my first story test was because a friend of mine, Katie Barron, whose husband I met at school, she was an exec at the time, and she knew Pickle and Peanut was looking for board artists, and so I got a test for that. And so and they were desperate. They told me later that they did not like my test.
That's funny.
But they was like good enough. Again, same as Stugo, like tested okay, and then we got to warm up into something I just beat the throwaway threshold, and then I was able to warm up and I found my footing in there.
Oh, that's amazing.
And that was huge.
Do you wish that they hadn't told you that?
No, I'm glad they told me that.
Glad.
Well, because that made me feel like they at that point they knew I was capable of more than that, so they were comfortable telling me like, "Wow, we really didn't like your test," or they didn't really hate it, but they were like, "Eh."
We took such a risk on you hiring you. We're glad you worked out.
Yeah, it was that kind of vibe.
That's really funny. That's like you said, it's funny to hear like, okay, they're comfortable saying that. Is there anything that you'd like to plug?
Stugo on Disney Plus. Creative Block, favorite new podcast. No, this is do you mean outside of myself and the industry, just things I like in the world?
I mean, it can be whatever
anything that you
want.
can think of.
How can people help Stugo? Is there a way? Are there different ways to support it? Do they have to go onto the app? Do they have to get the VR headset and be in Stugo world and thumbs up alike or whatever? Like
all that would be great if you can if you could do that. No, yeah, it's tough. It's tough to make media like this and then ask for. Because you want it to just happen, but if you're looking for a comedy cartoon, give Stugo a shot. Why not? Who's gonna hurt you? Maybe you like it. And you ever see that Billy Eichner clip where he's running with a microphone and he corners a lady in New York and he says, "Name a woman, name a woman," and then the woman can't think of any women. She's like, ah. And he's going, "Name a woman." I feel like that sometimes when it's like, what's the like I wanted to plug some cool stuff I've been watching, and now I can't remember ever having seen a movie or a comic book in my life.
That's funny. No, I think so you said Stugo's on Disney Plus, but that's like the main platform where we can watch it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. That's the biggie.
That's a big one.
They have all these weird partnerships, but I think that's the one that's being paid attention to.
Well, as parting advice, is there anything that you do when you come up against creative block and you can't think of something to make in the show? Oh,
like for example, when you leave that writer's room and you haven't figured it out yet.
Yeah. This is boring, but yeah, I mean, the amazing thing about being in production is like, you'll learn when there's no option, creative block isn't a thing. You just kind of squeeze blood from a stone, and you're like, okay, well, and so it's been take a drive, listen to music, things will just start to click and whir. Like if you've been looking at something for so long, this is old advice. If you've been looking at something all day, hammering your head against it, getting nowhere, it's amazing how like leaving it alone for a second will like solve it. That's my big idea.
Love it. Anything else?
Have you guys heard Any good advice? Tell me. How do you? What's the best news you heard about getting around creative
Well,
block?
there
on
are
your
200
podcast?
plus episodes with different
Yeah, I know.
advices.
Yeah, so give me the best one.
I wonder, because I think like we had quite a few people. Obviously, the shower comes up a lot. Taking a walk comes up a lot, but there's been like I think for me the best advice I've heard on the show is like, especially because I don't write as much as I draw, so it was just like to force yourself to write all of the bad ideas out, and I used to be too precious to ever do that, and so I would only want to write something sort of good. And writing out the bad things on purpose actually helped me out a lot.
I think that's amazing advice.
The advice that I usually give is that so you hear that advice that like, you know, you can't always be at the whims of your motivation. Sometimes you have to just sit down and do it. For me, it's about curating when I'm motivated. So I still use the motivation thing, but I know the things that'll get me motivated and what headspace I need to get into and the things that get me into that headspace to become motivated, because I think that's when I work the best. So whether it's watching your favorite artist, whether it's listening to an episode of Creative Block, whether it's like getting out all of your bad drawings, you know, on a page, filling up a page and burning it and setting it on fire, whatever it is, for me, it's about getting in, getting into that headspace the most amount of time possible and staying in that space. But yeah,
You've learned your process.
a little bit. Yeah.
That's amazing to know oneself. I think those are great. Honestly, figuring out, I have that stuff too when you feel lost. Like I have a little document that I made to like reread stuff that gets me excited, because I'm like, sometimes when you're I like at some point after I made Pomerant, I had the way I explained it to my wife was like, it felt like I've spent like 6 months building a race car, shooting it down a track, and when it was over, it exploded. And I can't remember like what I like or why I liked it, or like what even made me make that thing. And so as I slowly like got back into the space of like having like getting excited and having ideas, I made sure to write it down. And I have a little document that like I can return to and be like, right, this is what I like about media. This is what I think is exciting. Like this is the stuff that like shoots me up.
You know?
But that's what I advise to give everyone, V. Like your first version is going to be bad, and that's fine. If you know it's bad, then you can fix it.
Right.
But yeah, do the shitty one right now.
It's good that you bring up the things that inspired you too, because I kind of went through that recently where like I had a meeting with an exec on Tuesday and they're like, okay, let's try to come up with a new idea. So like they kind of gave me some guidelines. We kind of are looking for this kind of thing, and we started kind of like liking an idea or like a direction, like a very broad direction. So this week I was like, oh man, I was excited about some themes, but it's hard to take a theme and make it into a show. And I was like, fortunately they pitched like, oh, we want to do something with music. So I was like, that's where we got excited. I was like, oh, what about this artist? And we like the artist, so we're talking about that artist, and I've been listening to the music a lot. And I was like, I really like that vibe. But I couldn't come up with a story or anything. And then I was like, what are the shows that I like? What do I like? And then I was just like, I just got to do the things that I like. And then everything started falling in place. So I was like, oh, yeah, it doesn't have to be that hard.
And tell me if you're wrong, but for me sometimes it's the name a woman thing. When you sit there and you're like, what are the things I like? I'm like, I can't remember anything I like. And so I have this little, like, my little manifesto, I call it. I'm like, okay, yes, thank you, yes. These are the things that I like.
You know what's funny? So sorry. And then,
No.
Sean, you can go. But it's like, I feel like every time that, because of my webcomic, sometimes I do some Q&A stuff on Instagram and people will like ask me random questions. But some questions that came up a lot were like, what are your favorite books and your favorite shows? And the first time I got asked that question, I was like, oh my God, I don't know. But then because they've asked that question a couple of times, now I'm like, I know right off the bat. I'm like,
you got your favorites.
Yeah, I'm like, I have them down. I'm like, okay. And it's helped me a lot to create, actually, because I'm like, yeah, this is the kind of stuff that I wish I could make. And then you kind of shoot for it. But yeah, Sean, what were you gonna say?
Oh no, I was just gonna say, like, there's been a couple times even during this podcast where you got excited to talk about something that was in the other room, or like a list that you made, or like it sounds like you keep a lot of like little charts and little cards and like that you
Yes.
reference that help you also.
Yeah, I mean, because these things take years, right? And like you changed so much in this time, and the idea, like you look at something so long, it's really nice, I think, to have something that reminds you, like, what got you excited about this in the first place. Like to have all these, these little totems, like, oh right, this is the thing
Yeah.
that I was jazzed about.
Yeah. This is how you remind you of who you really am.
Yeah. Wow. Now it has got a full new meaning.
I almost joined you, but then I got scared.
No. And speaking of getting scared away, I believe that this is the end of our creative block. Everybody can go retire to their beds with multiple new problems introduced and lie awake. Ryan, thank you
That's
so
the
much.
vibe I give. I'm sorry about that. Yeah.
Ryan, thank you so much for being our guest and sharing our story. Our story?
It was so great.
Your story.
Your story.
Thank you
Our
for sharing
story. It's
my
our story now.
and your story. Our story together.
It's our story now. We've interwoven now. Thank you. It's so good to see you guys. Thank you for this. Wonderful just to chat.
Thanks to our listeners, too. You can follow us on social media at CRTV Blog, where we ask for drawing prompts and questions to ask our guests. Huge thanks to our editor, Clemens, for editing the podcast, Marku for helping us produce the show, and Ibuka for creating the short clips we've been putting out.
If you love our show, then support us on Patreon. Hey, we have stuff there that you can't see, and we keep it behind the paywall, like a sneaky little trickster. Hey, we're teasing you with this stuff that you can see out in the open, but you'll never guess what we have behind the paywall. It's the real juicy secrets. It's the way to get a job on the first time you submit your portfolio, all behind the paywall. No, I'm just joking. Become a Patreon and get you early access to interviews, access to our Discord and community. Click the link in the description of this episode. And I've been your host, Sean.
And I was VEE. Keep being creative, and we'll see you next week.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.